Hello and welcome back to the Andrew Haines Show. In today's episode, Andrew sat down with Robert Brown, the Director of Consumer Sales at Pacers Sports and Entertainment. Robert started his career in sports working as an intern in the box office of a local sports team. And right when he graduated college, he jumped into a role in inside ticket sales for the Frisco RoughRiders. From there, he worked his way into a job in corporate ticket sales with the Pacers and immediately began working his way up to his current role as the Director of Consumer Sales. In the show, Robert and Andrew share a discussion about how to manage your time and build your schedule as a salesperson, the transition from selling to being a sales manager, and the different skills required in each role, and the role of a positive mindset in sales. We hope you enjoy.
I want to thank you, Robert, for joining me today. Let's go ahead and get rolling. Let's start off just with kind of your background from maybe school up into the position where you're at now.
For sure. Well, first off, thank you for having me on here. I went to a small school, Illinois College. It's in Central Illinois. When I first graduated high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was going to be an engineer, then I was going to be a teacher, then I got into accounting, and eventually just stuck with accounting and finance. So, not the traditional sports management route. It's not a powerhouse school like a lot of the people you'll see in the industry come from. Played football through college. So I remember thinking, how can I marry, business and sports? And that's kind of how I stumbled into working for sports. I interned with the Gateway Grizzlies, which is a Frontier League team in Sauget, Illinois. I got there, had no idea what I was getting into. I ran the box office window, sold a little bit. I did well enough. I had some great recommendations and some great mentors and coaches there that really helped me learn the business to get started. And, still thought it was cool. Had an internship with a pharmaceutical company afterwards and realized, man, I can't really compete with my last summer. So I started realized getting into sales, I felt like I had the personality and the work ethic to get into it. And that was I jumped both feet into it. I went from my last collegiate football game was in November of 2014. I was going to graduate in May. My brother lived in Dallas. I was like, it'd be cool to live down there, be close to him. He just had a little girl, so it'd be cool, close to my niece. And I started looking for jobs down there, and I saw an opening on Teamwork Online with the Frisco RoughRiders, AA affiliate of Rangers. So started looking there, and I reached out, and it was for a job sales role to starting in January, and I wasn't graduating until May. I reached out and said, hey, I'm not scheduled to graduate right away. Is this something you're looking to fill in May, or is this looking to fill right away? And I got shot down. They're like, sorry, we're fill this immediately. Let's touch base later in the year. I was like, well, no, I actually really want this job. So I went and talked to my advisor and my registrar and everything like that. And I went from remember it was a Tuesday morning. I woke up and I was scheduled to graduate in May to Tuesday at around 2:00. Dropped one of my majors to a minor and was scheduled to graduate in 2 weeks.
Wow.
I took the job and I was like, hey, I moved some things around here. What are your thoughts here? And, they were gracious enough to expedite the interview process with me just because, I did have a lot of moving parts and was lucky enough to receive an offer. Moved down there January 8th. Just kind of jumped in both feet to Dallas, Texas from Southern Illinois. And my roommates were, I went to school with a lady and she had graduated at the same time, and her husband just got married on January 3rd and I moved in January 8th. And I couldn't imagine I just got married in June. I couldn't imagine my first year of marriage having a roommate. So
yeah, especially a couple of days right after you get married,
5 days later. So they
hold a great friend right there.
They hold a very special place in my heart for, letting me do that, help me get started. As do the RoughRiders. And I was in an inside sales position with the RoughRiders for about 8 months. Then I moved into an outside sales role. Had a great mentor who hired me, a guy named Andrew Sidney, who is now the director of ticket sales with the Detroit Tigers. And Sid and I still talk pretty regularly. And he offered me some advice, if the Big Four is what you want to get into, which was my goal. Start reaching on LinkedIn, start getting to know people in the industry. So positions open up, they'll think of you. So had about 5 or 6 calls before I started talking to Justin Ramquist, who's still with the Pacers, and he was overseeing their corporate sales department. Talked to him, I think it was in February. They had a position opened up, and he's like, hey, if you're interested, I'd love to interview you for it. So I was like, let's do it. It's closer to home. It's an NBA team, which I was excited to get into the NBA. Interviewed, and I didn't get the job my first time around, which I was devastated. I was like, man, this is it. Apparently I'm not as good as I thought I was. I got to work on this, that, the other. And come back in June that year, and they had another position open up. I reached out and I applied for it, and I tricked enough people into thinking I was good at what I was doing, and they offered me a job. So moved up to Indianapolis, July of 2016, as an outside sales representative, corporate ticket sales rep. Did that role for a while, for about 2 years. Then did a year where I was a dual seller and manager after being like the top producer there. So I was overseeing running our day-to-day stuff of a team of 7, still holding in book of business as well as myself, and still doing sales calls before last July moving into our director of consumer sales, where overseeing our entry-level ticket sales representatives. Spent a lot of time recruiting, training, managing, onboarding them, helping them get the starts in their careers, really just trying to repay the favors to the next group of great ticket sales representatives that I had in my life. And it's been awesome. It's been a blast. Obviously a big wrinkle thrown our way here in the past few months, but I couldn't ask for a better staff right now. They're buying into what we're saying. They're practicing as much as we ask. We're just trying to stay sharp, and they're doing what we ask.
No, that's key, especially, in the current climate. I think that kind of leads to relationships in this business are, I think, crucial. And, it's a big world, but a small world, and just with, your group of connections that you have from, the Pistons and with Justin. So talk a little bit about, how important the relationships are in the business.
Man, to your point, I can't emphasize, and I try to, this is one of the points I try to hammer home with my staff, is it's such a small industry. You never know, the person you're sitting next to, and if you're an inside sales representative or account executive, could one day be a reference for you, or a boss, or a potential hiring manager. It's just such a small world. We go to league meetings, and I got 3 or 4 people who I text on a regular basis just to bounce ideas off each other. Like, hey, how would you handle if this situation presented to you, or what would you do here in this scenario? And it's just awesome that we're such a tight knit group that we're able to help each other out like that. And it's just such a small world that if you don't know somebody, I guarantee you can find somebody who knows somebody in this industry.
Yeah, always connected.
Right, exactly.
And I think with the whole current climate with the virus and everything, I think it's actually, for me, it's helped me focus more time on building some of those relationships just by having some downtime and trying to, share ideas and get feedback on what other people are doing. Because there's no manual for this,
right.
What we're going through right now. And, I talked to dozens of teams, and, the team that I'm with in Fredericksburg, Virginia, the baseball team, we're pushing forward, we're doing sales, we're doing just general outreach. So we're kind of doing a mix. I've seen some teams that are doing absolutely nothing, some that are just, building those existing relationships. So it's kind of cool to get with other people in the industry. And I'm excited for, as we come out of this, is to continue those relationship buildings and just sharing, of ideas and knowledge. Cause it's been great the last 2 months from, if there's anything great out of this whole situation, it's been that. And we've been able to focus on that as a staff as well.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you. And I'm hoping that's a habit I can take into, post-pandemic life. It's just making time each week to get in touch with one person, 1 or 2 people in the industry, just to network, whether it's for 30 minutes, virtual coffee. And I think the software that a lot of people are using, Zoom, such as this, is really going to become a normal thing. If you reach out and say, let's hop on a Zoom call and talk, that's something that everybody seems to be fairly used to now. So I hope that that's something a habit I can take into the rest of my career with me, because I think it's a good one to have. Yeah,
and Zoom. Hell, I was on some Zoom calls before, but never facilitating them, and never multiple times a day like we are now. So I think definitely people, and it's much better than a phone call. So our staff, my staff and probably your staff are similar in the fact that most are entry level, and staying motivated and guiding them through this. Zoom has been a crucial part, being able to do video. So on your, journey, did you have any, mentors or anybody that's really kind of, taking you under their wing and guided you? Or did you kind of just go out and grind it out, networking and doing everything on your own?
Yeah, I would say the two guys I talked about earlier, Andrew Sidney and Justin Rampus. I've worked for both of them. Worked for Justin currently. Worked for Andrew for a little over a year, and they're two people who I can go to with questions, whether it's about work or Justin and I. We talk about my wife and I just bought a house, so the home.
Congrats.
Thank you very much. It was pretty crazy. So if I had something I had no idea what was going on, he was somebody I knew I could go to and ask questions about. Not just how to be a good manager of people, but also how to be like an adult, if you will.
Right.
That to me is almost more valuable than the business side of things, which I always great. But I'd say, I always had a pretty strong work ethic on top of it though. I always prided myself on whatever metrics we were going against. I always wanted to hang my hat on something. So when I started with the Pacers, obviously I came in, didn't have any connections, didn't have a book of business. So at that point was just my goal. I knew I wasn't going to lead in sales off the bat. I don't know many people who can jump into a situation and be the top producer in their first month. So my goal was I needed to find something to hang my hat on. So is it phone calls? Is it meetings? Is it companies canvas? Whatever it was, I needed to make sure that I was winning in something. Just because I strike myself as a competitive person. I try to find people who are competitive when I'm out recruiting, because I think it takes you a long way. But that was my goal, was what can I be the best at right now? And then eventually those habits will turn into sales.
So what was your first winning?
Oh, I remember my first day on the phones in Indy. I set 5 appointments with business owners across the state. I was super pumped about that. I was like, man, easy. And then I kind of came back to reality a little bit. So my first few months though, I led the way in meetings. That was, to me, that's the most important metric from a account executive or outside sales rep, is how many meetings you're getting out on in front of people to pitch your product. It's like you cast a wide net, you're going to catch a lot of fish. So that was my mantra, is I needed to just get out in front of people. Then I started to develop a network, and networking was how I really was successful as a sales rep, able to open doors for other people, but also was not afraid to ask for somebody to open a door for me. My biggest sale ever came from a referral that started with a coffee with a referral partner. Next step was a happy hour with his client. And then third step was getting them out to a game where we pitched them a 3-year sweet lease. So that was networking was what I was really hung my hat on whenever I was selling.
So is that are you in BNI or something like that, or?
So there's a group called Accelerant here in Indianapolis, and basically it's a small business group, and it's not really like a networking group. It's more like it's a business development accelerator is what they call it. So I really bought into it. I know that was something that when we first joined, that I felt like I could jump in and play the new card as long as I could. Like, hey, I'm a new guy here. I don't know. Help me. And it's amazing how many people are willing to help you if you're and ask for it. So but I always made sure that in the long run I was able to pay back whenever I could, whether open up once I had a book of business.
Start connecting.
Start connecting. And that really, if you can do that, same like we talked about in your professional career, if you can connect with people in the industry, you'll grow your career. That's how I viewed sales too, is if I can connect with people, it'll help me grow my revenues, and it'll help me get promoted quicker. Like
how do you, cause you started out as an inside sales rep, how do you manage your day? Cause you have, you're making 60, 80 calls a day, and then you're going on meetings, you're trying to do it all and trying to stay motivated at the same time. How do you do that?
Yeah. So when I was in inside sales, I was lucky enough that we had another guy who's actually in sales for the Braves right now, selling for the Braves. He and I were just naturally competitive with each other. Like we were really good friends. We ended up being roommates for a little bit, but if I saw he had 100 calls, I knew I had to make 120. It was like that back and forth. If he saw I had I remember we'd have contests for leads or online sales, and those we would really push each other. I remember there was a week where I made 1,000 phone calls to win a lead, and he was at 950, something. We just put up enormous numbers. And really, when you're in inside sales, time management is the hardest thing to learn, but that's your easiest time where you're gonna have time management, because you have the least responsibility. You don't have clients who are reaching out as much. You don't have receipts to make. You don't have invoices to create. You're not going on quite as many appointments as you are when you take that next step. So it's really just trying to teach. One of the things I try to teach my staff now is manage your calendar, how to use Outlook, how to use time management tools. Because if you can get a really good foundation inside sales, when you get into that next step where you're starting to go out on more points, you're out of the office more, it's much easier. And then when you get to a point where you may be selling and managing, it's just even more important to manage your book of business or in your day to day. So now I've got the time management was something, and staying close to deadlines was one of the things I'm always trying to work on, because I know it's not one of my strengths. I'll be honest with you, like I'm okay with admitting that, but I've got a planner that I use. I have like my top 3 objectives for the day. I've got like my personal objectives for the day. I've got some, and then I have like a notes page where anything I may need for the day is going to be on there, where if it's going back and okay, so for these couple phone calls, here are the numbers I need to call, and it's all in one area, which really helps me, because if I have to look in 3 different places, I'll just get frustrated. But it's nice having it all one concise area.
No, I think that's especially as you start getting into the leadership. I think a lot of times people struggle from sales to management and leadership, because some great salespeople don't always translate over to great leaders. So how did you smoothly transition, or did you have any, hiccups? I mean, it's always interesting when you, especially being competitive like you are, I'm the same way. I'm hyper competitive. And I think leaders have to learn how to understand that you don't have to personally win to win. It's about your team, and their wins are our wins as well. And sometimes that's a challenge at the beginning.
Yeah. Honestly speaking, the toughest part was whenever I was selling and managing, since I am competitive, was seeing whenever there be, obviously sales can be a bit of a roller coaster. If I wasn't having as big of a month and some of my teammates were, and I was supposed to be leading them, I tend to put a lot of pressure on myself. So that was something that was a really big struggle for me, was I just want to be genuinely happy for those who are selling when I'm not. It's so hard. It's like a tough pill to swallow at times, but I think that was, once I learned how to do that, how to realize that, my success and my reputation isn't just on what I'm doing, but it's how the people around me, how they're doing as well. That really helped out. I always tell folks who are looking to get into leadership, the easiest way to make that transition is make the people around you better now. Like if you're an account executive, but you want to get a senior title, or you have a senior title and you want to move into a full-on manager role, what can you do to make everybody around you better, more comfortable? Like, how can you take one of their weaknesses and not make it detrimental, and fine tune their strengths? If you can do that, and you can prove that you're making them better, it makes the transition much better.
Like, so what do you do on like a weekly or daily basis, like with your team, like just to kind of continue to develop them, keep them motivated and producing?
Yeah. So we're not selling in this current environment. But what we're doing right now is we meet every day. Actually, like I told you, I just wrapped up a call right before this, which was we had our daily meeting, and it's touch base. First few minutes is just us talking. How's everybody doing? How was the weekend today? We had a long weekend. We didn't meet yesterday, so just make sure how was your Memorial Day? Just really want them to know how we talk as a person. Then we do weekly role plays. Everybody does like a role play in our team meeting, and then they do role plays outside when they're paired up, just to stay sharp there. And we do some training as well, where some of the things that you maybe don't have time to work on in your day-to-day off, like when you're in the office making phone calls. So everything from how do I manage a calendar a little bit better? How do we utilize certain parts of the pitch? Like how can we make recommendations? So I've tried to think of like games and other ways to stay competitive to work on those. So like we did a game where each rep acted as like a travel agent, and they had to ask open-ended questions and then make a recommendation to us based on what they were asking us and where we wanted to go, which was a great way to work on, the open-ended questions recommendation portion of the pitch. So those just little things like that, just to help
cool.
with, training without, hey, let's run through the questions we want to ask. Just help them think on their feet. And we try to do some fun things. Like right now we're doing like a weekly debate where, just to stay fun and a little competitive, and we all vote on who wins. I think we can stay sharp and stay competitive with each other when we come out of this. We do hit the phones and we do start selling. We'll be in good shape.
Yeah, I think that's the key is, you're not selling right now, but you're not sitting back doing nothing. You're preparing your team to hopefully be better than they were when you went into this. It sounds like
that's the whole goal. Stay connected with our group, stay connected with our whole staff, and then us stay sharp.
So how was the transition for you from, the minor leagues to, the NBA? Because I would think I've only been in the minor leagues my career, and one day I hope to join you in the Big Four. But tell me how that transition was and the pros and cons both ways.
I talk to people all the time. I loved my time in minor league baseball. I learned a lot. One of the great things about somebody who starts in minor league, and again, take this with a grain of salt because that's where I started my career. So I think
of course it's great.
Right. But you learn to sell the experience, because most fans are coming out for time with family, for entertaining clients. They're not coming out really to watch, the next big Ranger superstar is going to be there in 4 years. They're really there. So it really helps you know how to paint the picture in situations where you're not relying to what's happening on the court. So I felt like I was really successful with the Pacers because of my time in minor league baseball. I was able to talk about why you should bring your family out, why you should bring your clients out, why your employees are going to love coming out to a game. Oh, and by the way, we're playing really well. Have you seen how Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis are playing? Like those types of conversations, it added fuel to it, just being able to paint the picture from an experience standpoint. So I think that was something that really helped me in my sales career was being forced to learn how to sell an experience versus selling the product on the court.
And I would think I don't know. I know Frisco is one of the top teams as well, but I mean, that's such a huge market. I would think maybe name recognition and prestige with the Pacers probably made it a little easier when you would call people.
To get the initial meeting, yeah, it was. And I think that's one of the great things about working for a team like the Pacers is we do an awesome job of grassroots movements, image, branding, and marketing in the public, so that we have a really positive image out there when we do pick up the phone and call. Our players are out in the community. We do a lot of donations from a ticketing standpoint. So I can remember very few phone calls that we'll call and people will just scoff at us just because that very rarely happened, because we did such a good job of building up our brand and recognition in the community. So that's a shout out to our community relations department, our marketing departments for doing a great job of making sure that the public we're perceived well. And that helps our sales job tremendously.
And how does it, have you noticed, cause you're from Illinois, so you're not far, but you're basically in the heart of basketball country. Indiana and basketball is like peanut butter and jelly almost. So have you noticed that at all, or not really, because it's the NBA and the Pacers?
No, you still do. You have your people who you'll talk to them, and I always remember when I was selling, I'd go out on meetings and I would talk to folks, and they would talk about the ABA days, or they would talk about the Reggie days, and it was just really cool to see folks who have really passionate, strong memories of the team. Indiana's got, I think, 9 out of the 10 largest high school basketball arenas in the world.
Wow.
I think it was a few years back, there was a sectional game that had 20,000 people at it. It's a different world.
Wow.
Obviously when you see Indianapolis, we have the Colts right in market. So that's a competitor of ours. But what a lot of people don't realize is we also have IU basketball, Purdue basketball, Butler basketball, all within, 90 minutes of downtown Indy. So those are things that we talk about, as well as when we're talking to people of how they're using their entertainment dollars. Isn't just with us or the Colts. They have strong alma mater ties. Which Vic coming to the Pacers helped us out a lot, because he was an IU guy, so a lot of the IU fans were excited about that. But it is really cool to see how many people are excited about just basketball and good basketball. I think a lot of the players you see come through, it's funny, if you ask the fans who their favorites are, it's not always the superstar. TJ McConnell, for instance, is becoming a fan favorite just because of how gritty and hard nosed he plays, and he's diving for a loose.
It's that area,
Exactly. It fits it fits how basketball should be played, and that's what the folks in Indiana love to see. And I think our basketball side has done a good job of getting good quality people and basketball players.
So what kind of career aspirations do you have? It looks like, over the last 4 years, you've really been kind of moving up with the Pacers. Is there a path or kind of end goal that you're looking to reach?
I think one day I want to be a VP of sales for a Big Four team. That I think that is a goal, and eventually become a chief revenue officer somewhere. I'm lucky enough. I'm in a position where I've got some great people to learn from, and until I feel like I'm not learning anymore, that's when I'll really start to look. I've learned so much in the past, 6-7 months. I thought I knew the industry when I was selling. I knew everything, and then I got into management. It's wow. this is it's a very different experience. It's a great experience, but there's a lot of things that as a sales rep you just don't think about. Things you almost take for granted, which is hilarious. Looking back, it's amazing how much I thought I knew that I didn't.
It's funny. I was thinking that exact same thing just this week, because I was like, I feel like I know so much more now than I did 5 months ago.
Right.
And I've been in this most of my adult life. I'm 41. So, I think it's a constant, hopefully. I mean, if you really want to be great, and like you said, when that stops, it's time to move on.
Right. Like our leadership team on our ticketing side is fantastic. Our VP Barry Gibson has seen, up until the pandemic, I'd say he's seen everything under the sun that you could possibly, which is, it's awesome, because I know if there's between him and my boss Justin, I know if I can go to either one of them and they're going to have a situation they may have seen at one point that they can help me out with, and I think it's great that I have people I can go to for help. And I'm constantly looking to learn and to grow. And there's situations that get thrown my way that's like, wow, I had no idea how to answer that question. Let me get back to you on that. And I go chat with them, and they do a good job of challenging me to, how would I handle it? And then we go back and forth, and we always come out on the same side with each other. May disagree a little bit, but eventually we do come out on the same side. And I think that's the important thing is, having bosses that you can disagree with, but at the end of the day, that you're going to come out together at the end of it, which is crucial.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's, you almost need to be able to disagree at some point. I mean, it's part of learning. And, if you're passionate about something or really believe in it, you should be able to speak up. So it's good that the leadership is open-minded and challenges you back, to help develop you. Cause there's a lot of places that don't have that culture, right. They don't. And I think it's important. So obviously from your growth in your career, you could see that it's there with the Pacers. So that's great.
Yeah, it's I can't say enough good things about the leadership team that we have here, and the opportunities they've given me, and the coaching and mentoring I've gotten over the years of the Pacers. It's been I wouldn't be where I'm at without that. I would just be some stupid guy trying to stumble through the world, and they've definitely helped me out a ton.
So when you were back in college, would you have thought, 5-6 years later, that you'd be working in the NBA?
Oh man, in college I was worried about who my next football team was, what my next meetings were. I was very short-sighted, and I think if I could go back, that was something I would change. Is just try to view the bigger picture. I mean, I remember I did my elevator pitch video in a T-shirt. I'm like, and I see, and I think of that now, and I just cringe. So that amount of time, just seeing, how much growth there's been, just a maturity thing. It's looking back, it's how much I didn't know. But again, I've had people just by that mindset, it's people took a risk, and I hope they view it paid off. 'Cause I think it did. But I would not think I'd be where I'm at. I think I would outwork about anybody, but I don't think I would be, have the opportunities I've had since then.
That's cool. What position did you play in football?
I was a D tackle, nose guard. I had a hand in the dirt, hitting heads.
Nice. A grinder.
Yeah. A lot of fun. I think I got, on every single run play we faced, I had a center and a guard in my face. So it was really fun.
Nice. You got to miss that a little bit every now and then.
I do. I miss the games. and I miss the camaraderie. I miss the Madden games at camp. I don't miss practice.
Yeah.
I do miss the games, and I don't miss being sore. But I miss the teammates. Me and my teammates, we still talk pretty much every day. I got 5 or 6 guys we'll talk every single day, which is awesome.
That's cool. I'm kind of the same way with that. It's such an area that being competitive, it's like you really miss that. And that's really what I try to bring that to the staff here, and just that team feel, let's go to war together. I mean, when you're grinding on the phone 60, 80 calls a day, it's, man, it's lonely. It gets lonely sometimes. A lot of rejection, a lot of, everything. So, we really try to make it a fun spot.
I get excited when I see somebody battling, with a client or a prospective client. And what gets me even more excited is when the people around them notice that and start cheering them on. That to me, it's the coolest thing in the world. It's awesome to see. It's awesome to see the staff picking each other up, reward and, cheering for each other. I always talk to, when I'm interviewing, I'm looking for people who are competitive, and I don't want somebody who, when things aren't going their way, they just get mad and pout. A lot of people say, "Oh, I'm competitive. I'm mad. I'm losing." I'm like, I want somebody who's competitive in the fact that when things aren't going their way, they fix it and they know how to really learn how to rebound. That to me is a competitive person.
Yeah.
You don't need to outwardly express your disappointment. You don't need to outwardly express, you're upset. But if you can realize something's going wrong and you can fix it and you rebound and you work to doing it, somebody who's going to go really far in life just from that competitive mindset.
Yeah. Problem solving,
Sure.
right there. I mean, it's crucial. Is there any one skill or trait that it's like number one, you have to have it. You're not going to be considered without it.
Honestly, I know we hit on a couple of times. Really, somebody who's competitive is the thing I'm looking for the most. There's about 5 characteristics I'm looking when I'm interviewing. Competitive is number one. Also looking for people who are coachable, just because, there's a lot of times we're hands-on trying to help them get better and they want to get better. People who are going to act with integrity. If you're competitive but you don't have integrity, you're not going to do well. So you got to have a good balance there of, you want to get to the top, but you also want to pull people up with you. Somebody who's gritty, I think that goes hand in hand with competitive. And then people who are positive, that even if they're having a rough day, maybe they've gotten 6 no's in a row, they're going to keep smiling, dialing. Everybody around there is going to feel that, because that's super important, is just being able to, radiate sunshine on a rainy day.
Yeah. You got to have that energy flowing throughout the office.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that's great, man. It sounds like you've got a great team there, and you've got some great leaders helping you continue to develop. And, it sounds like you'd be a fun, competitive person to work for and with. So
yeah, I think if you ask my staff, depending on the day, they may agree. It depends on
yeah.
the tips they've gotten from me. But no, we try to keep it fun. It's our job, it's our career, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure that our people are known, they're cared for, they're taken care of. I truly believe that as a leader, that's our most important thing, is, taking people maybe not necessarily where they want to go, but where they need to go. Taking them, pushing them to that extra level. A lot of times that's when you're looking at somebody who has a fire lit in them, they are competitive. How can we take that fire and just pour gas on it and make them want to be stronger? So that it's fun leading a group of people. It's fun leading a team. It's very challenging. Every day is different. And I couldn't ask for anything right now.
Yeah, no, it sounds exciting. I want to thank you for joining me today. It was good to, chat with you a few weeks back when we were, just connecting, and I was like, man, you've got some great stuff that I'd love to share with other people.
Well, I appreciate you reaching out. I enjoy talking to you, and, glad to hear things are going well in Fredericksburg, and, congrats on the promotion or the recent job change there. I hope, I think we talked about this last time we spoke, but man, it's a crazy start to the VP of sales role whenever all this happens. So good luck. Man, if I can help with anything, you got my email, got my phone number, call me if I can help with anything.
Will do. Thank you.
Hey, podcast fans. Thanks for listening to today's episode of The Andrew Haines Show. We appreciate all of your support and would love any feedback that you have. So if you do have any feedback, please leave us a review or reach out to Andrew on LinkedIn.